Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Professor, from Japan, from Thailand, from Indonesia, from Bahrain, all around the world.
Oh, look at the
Really an
beard.
international.
Yeah,
My
you look.
goodness.
You look. How are you all? Fine.
Jeez.
Okay.
You know,
Just trying to impress you.
yeah, man.
We're already impressed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm happy, very happy actually to be with you today and help in this session. It is a great pleasure for me.
Our pleasure.
I feel so shy now. If I would have known you had that white beard and you were going to look that handsome, I would have
thank you.
canceled. I would have just canceled. Sorry,
I am flattered actually. Thank
I'm
you
not
so
the
much.
most handsome man here. Hey, Ajahn.
สวัสดีค่ะ Good evening everybody.
Good
Hi.
evening.
Buddy.
Morning. I'm glad to be
Buddy.
with you too ค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
What?
Welcome the Dean, Faculty of Human Sciences, ราชภัฏเพชรบูรณ์ University, อาจารย์เต้ from ราชภัฏสวนสุนันทา University, Thailand. Okay, Professor Marisa from Japan, Dr. Sigit from Indonesia, Dr. Yasodhara from Thailand, and everybody here, welcome. Please, Dr. Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay, let me just start this, wonderful event. I think it's now 8 o'clock, so we are going to get started. My name is Yasser Goma, and I welcome you all to this webinar. Thank you for joining the Association of Independent Scholars for Social Development. This webinar theme is Foreign Language and Anxiety, no longer a challenge by our dear colleague, actually, Mr. David Perrodin. A few logistical notes before we begin. This webinar, as you may know, is being recorded and will be posted to the Association of Independent Scholars for Social Development YouTube channel immediately after the event. Also, there is closed captioning available for this webinar. That is the closed caption button at the bottom of your black ribbon. And you can actually press that button and turn on the subtitles if needed. I want to remind you all that the Association of Independent Scholars for Social Development is providing this webinar as a public service. However, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this webinar belong only to the person expressing them and don't necessarily represent the views of the Association of Independent Scholars for Social Development. We would also encourage you, the audience, to chime in your questions today for our guest, Mr. David, via the Q&A box at the ribbon at the bottom of your screen as well. We will try to address as many questions as we can get once we conclude, inshallah. You can also click on the chat button to say hello to your colleagues or tell us where you are calling in from. Try it now, see if it is working for you, and I will be in there chatting with you as well. Finally, just make sure that your microphones are muted so we can avoid any interruptions during our presentation. And now I will turn it over to our esteemed colleague, Mr. David Perrodin, who is an expert in the field, in the work he does. He is the English language specialist with the Institute for Population and Social Research at Mahidol University in Bangkok, Thailand. He is also a journal manager and copy editor for the top-tier Q2 Scopus Index Journal of Population and Social Studies with the same institute. In addition to being the recipient of several prestigious international teaching awards for his contribution to global education, he has acquired exemplary teaching qualifications and certifications, along with a Bachelor in Secondary Education with honors and the Master of Arts in Teaching with honors, both with the concentration in English. He is currently a doctoral candidate in applied linguistics for English language teaching at King Mongkut University of Technology, Thornbury, Thailand. Mr. David, it's a wonderful to have you with us today. And now the floor is yours.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful introduction. Thank you. I've noticed that a Bachelor in Secondary Education with honors and a Master's of Teaching with honors, but not during my PhD. Oh no, my GPA is my GPA is 3.37. So
wow, we are very proud of you. We are very proud of you.
That's horrible. 3.37. I'm lucky to be alive. So I think I have I'm sorry, how much time do I have?
Well, I think no more than 1 hour will be.
Oh no,
okay.
1 hour is too much.
So but at least half an hour.
Yeah,
we want
sure.
to know more about the subject. At least half an hour.
Okay, well, great. Well, I started my timer. All right, let me share my screen here, and we are going to get going. Now, foreign language anxiety, no longer a challenge. This is the first time I will do this type of presentation. I've done many, many, many presentations about foreign language anxiety, but never from this point of view. So this is me. Yeah, that's it. Everything Dr. Yasser said. So, and the Q2 Scopus Index Journal. I just wanted to plug our journal a little bit. We were Q4, then we were Q3 for a long time, and since I have been working there, we have become Q2, and within the next couple of years, we will be at Q1. I am the journal manager, so everyone works diligently to make the journal the best. So just wanted to plug the journal a little bit. So, okay. Now, I always begin every presentation with a quote because others are way more intelligent than I. So you live a new life, every new language you speak. If you know only one language, you live only once. Now, of course, everyone here listening to me, you are probably not a native English speaker. Okay, so English is one of your other languages, one of your L2s, your second language, or English could be a foreign language to you. Now, I'm going to confess something here. I travel, well, sorry, not currently because of the coronavirus, but before I traveled all over the world. I would regularly do rotations with 16 countries, promoting English, training teachers, encouraging students. And I realized several years ago that what we think causes anxiety in the students, it's not what the students think. I will clarify that later. But I have had the opportunity during my tenure to speak with so many students. I mean, hundreds upon hundreds of students from every age, every nationality, whatever. And when you ask, okay, what are some problems you have with speaking English? That is a fair question. What are some problems or what are some issues you have with speaking English or using English? And most people think immediately that students will say grammar. You know, there's just oodles and oodles of studies out there, just so many studies, hundreds of studies that say, no, it's not grammar. The students have this perception that grammar is the big bad monster. Well, we will see during our time together that grammar is not really the issue. So let's go. Now, when we think about language, just basic communication, we think about all these things, okay? We think about language and then I'm studying English and applied linguistics. So what comes to my mind is proficiency, language proficiency, sentence structure. I even look at semantics. I even look at syntax, all of these things, and phonology and second language acquisition, all of these different terminologies. But the truth is, when someone tries to speak English, they're not thinking about all these things, okay? Now, I live in Thailand, and I have been living in Thailand for a very long time. And daily, I speak Thai. And okay, I am a reasonable communicator. I would say maybe A2 level, okay? That's about it. But I can speak fairly well. Reading and writing, I'm like at kindergarten level. But I can, I can communicate fairly well. Well, let me tell you, daily, every day, I make mistakes. I really do. See, Thai is a tonal language, if you would like to call it that. And there are 5 distinct tones. And these tones could be ma, 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 ma. Okay, now they all sound the same to me. But when a native Thai speaker says ma, 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 they're completely different. So when I pronounce Thai, sometimes I might call a doctor a dog, or I might call a dog a horse, or, and these things, I make these mistakes daily. And you know what? To be completely honest with you, no one cares. There is not any person in this world who cares. Because Thai is not my language. Sorry, Thai is not my first language. So I will make mistakes. And sometimes I sound stupid. But native Thai speakers, you should see them. They look at me and they're like, it takes them a second to try to realize what I'm saying, but they know, and no one cares. I'm not using Thai as a technical language, so just as a basic communicative language. No one cares. So why is there so much anxiety? Why is there so much anxiety when using English? Why is there so much anxiety? When I travel to Indonesia, I try to speak Bahasa Indonesian with my friends. And okay, Indonesian is a little easier for me to pronounce than Thai, and even when I try to speak Japanese, it's same. It's Japanese is so much easier to speak than Thai. Now, reading Japanese, yeah, don't even talk to me. Just reading, I don't think I will ever do that. But speaking Japanese, speaking Indonesian, French, Spanish, Filipino, these languages are very easy for me. When I try to speak Mandarin, Chinese, or Thai, yeah, I make mistakes all the time. And you know, I do not feel any pressure. I do not feel any anxiety. So why is there so much anxiety? Why do people feel so uptight and so afraid? Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I do not feel anxiety because I eliminated one factor from my speaking life. I will touch on that in just a moment. Now, you know, as Dr. Yasser said earlier, I tend to work with foreign language anxiety quite a bit. We did a study a few months ago, and this presentation is about that study. And currently I'm doing a very large study, a study all across Thailand with several hundred participants from just every different demographics you can imagine. So our pilot study gave us some interesting answers that are not necessarily in the current literature. Now, let's go. What is foreign language anxiety? Well, it's sort of self-explanatory. Foreign language anxiety. Anxiety with speaking a foreign language. That's it. Now it is, you know, foreign language anxiety. I'm going to use FLA from here on out because foreign language anxiety is too much for me to say. So FLA, it really is this feeling of mild to severe fear, apprehension. I've seen second language speakers, English as a second or foreign language speakers. I've seen them cry. I'm talking about high school students, university students, adults. I've seen them cry when faced with speaking English. I've seen them run away. I've seen university students say, listen, I will take the F. I'm not speaking. And this is before they know me. But after they spend time with me, there's very little FLA. Why? What is different? What is so different from what I do with them to what has been done to them before? Now, FLA leads to some negative behaviors. It really does. And these behaviors, they do differ. They do differ according to culture and language proficiency. Yes. But I find that regardless of culture, people have this fight, flight, or freeze response. They really do. You know, yesterday I went to one of the local department stores. One of the local malls, and I walked into a shop in there, and I speak Thai well enough to communicate with the workers. But you know, when this person saw me, they froze and they ran. They froze, turned, and ran. This is the typical behavior that I see with Thai adults. Young people are a little less anxious to speak with me, but with Thai adults, they have this perception, foreigner, white guy, English, and they run away. So I have to stop them, and I have to ask in Thai. I said, excuse me, can you speak Thai? I cannot speak English very well. I tell them in Thai, in Thai. Excuse me, can you speak Thai? I cannot speak English very well. I do that, well, I do it secretly to be a little sarcastic because it's insulting when they run away. But I also do it to try to break that ice and make them feel comfortable. And look, I have really seen students perspire, shiver, even want to pass out. I've seen that when they have to speak English. And with adults, this communication limiting, I've seen that. I actually see it, continually see this. So why are adults 40, 50, 60 years old, why are they behaving this way? That was what we looked at in our research. So the fight, flight, or free response, that's so overwhelming, and the withdrawals and the avoidance behaviors and these physical manifestations, why are these things happening? Why? Well, in our studies, we wanted to find the sources of FLA. Now, so much literature has speculated. It has speculated about the sources of foreign language anxiety. Well, we found in our study 4 sources of FLA: negative criticism, self-doubt, fear of embarrassment, and feeling of guilt. Again, negative criticism, self-doubt, fear of embarrassment, and feeling of guilt. But if these are adults, I wanted to see, well, my team and I, we wanted to see what was the source. Where did these feelings begin? Because, you know, all of us here are adults. And if we have a fear of something, that fear had to begin somewhere. So we looked at negative criticism, and we really asked. We wanted to know, where did this begin? And you know, we found that this concern about negative criticism was linked to stress during secondary education. Stress. The teachers bully the students. And we found that adults even now, you know, being out of high school 20, 25 years, they still experience that same stress. And when they experience that same anxiety, their minds automatically go back to their experiences in secondary education. And you know, we found that out of everyone who we interviewed, we found that the teacher bullying, you're stupid. Okay, I'm going to share with you some comments, okay? And these comments are being published now. Our article is under consideration now. We should be doing the revisions within the next couple of weeks. So we found that Thai teachers, secondary teachers of English, we found that they told the secondary students that you are stupid. You are stupid because your parents are stupid. In Thai, calling someone a buffalo is a derogatory term. So if you call someone a buffalo, that means that they're stupid, they're ignorant, they're difficult to control. So these adults told us that their teachers would call them stupid, call them buffaloes, and even hit them. I mean, like, I don't mean just with a little ruler. I mean, slap them in the face, hit them with a ruler to where the ruler would break the skin, make them bleed if they made a mistake. Well, would you want to speak English if someone was going to abuse you every time you made a slight mistake? No. that would create some serious anxiety in me. So we found that this negative criticism, this abuse, this bullying led to this feeling of uncertainty about foreign language proficiency. Okay, think about it. Abuse, bullying, criticism. That would make you doubt yourself. Sure, of course. You know, so this self-doubt was linked to concerns about their language proficiency. Now, the adults, now I'm talking about adults, the average age was 40 years old, okay? So I'm talking about adults who have been out of high school for a long time. Even today, they worry about their language proficiency because they associate mistakes with abuse, mistakes with bullying from their classmates. You know, we had people tell us that if they made mistakes, their teacher would hit them, would slap them, would criticize them, their friends would criticize them and bully them. But if they spoke English very well, sometimes better than the teacher would hit them, criticize them, bully them. If they spoke English better than their classmates would bully them. So, you know, if you speak English well or you speak English not so well, you're bullied and you are attacked. So why even try to speak English? And because they're not trying to speak English, their English proficiency deteriorates, okay? And just like the first category, these learners, they really were ridiculed. And some of the adults, when they were telling us about their experiences, wow, they were crying. I mean, they were crying. How can a 50-year-old adult still have that much pain in their heart from learning a language? Well, it's because the teachers are so demanding that they use physical force to force the students. And then what happens? The students, they don't want to speak anymore. Their language proficiency starts to deteriorate. And then now when they have to work, and if they work in international settings and they see me, I walk up and I say, hello, in an international setting, in a professional setting, they look so foolish to them. They feel that they look so foolish and they feel embarrassed. And they actually believe that me, a native English speaker, I will correct them and I will ridicule them. But like I said earlier, there's something that I do that reduces the anxiety in my students and in people who I speak with in professional settings. When they make a mistake, I don't even bother with it. What am I supposed to do? Oh, that minor mistake interfered with your communication. No, why would I do that? If someone mispronounces a word so badly that I have difficulty understanding them, I just simply say, sorry, what was that again? You know, and I smile and they're like, oh, yes. And if they start to feel embarrassed, I say, look, no, there's no need to be embarrassed. I want to understand you. I am using effort to listen to you because I care about what you're saying. So speak freely. And if there's something I'm not clear about, I will stop you. No problem. And so the fear of embarrassment, you know, the students in secondary education and in tertiary education, matter of fact, they are embarrassed and they have this distress and they're worried about speaking slowly or making errors in their language production. And they feel, oh my goodness, I'm going to be embarrassed when I make a mistake. because their past, when they made a mistake, the teacher would call them out in front of the class, sometimes make them stand against the blackboard. One student said the teacher would draw a circle on the blackboard and they would have to put their nose on the blackboard and keep it there. Now, look, I'm sorry. I am American. I have European ancestry, so I have a big nose. If I put my nose on the blackboard, that's fine. But my Thai students, their nose is it's a little short. It's not, it's not as big as mine. So when they put their nose against the blackboard, well, their mouth is touching the blackboard. So, it's not very hygienic. So, oh, Surya, the countdown timer. Do you see it?
Yeah, you still have, let's say, yeah. So we can actually create another link.
Okay.
So what
Yes,
we
sir.
suggest-
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Because
okay.
actually the topic is very interesting, but at the same time, I feel there is a kind of humiliation to students. This is awful. So how did you, we want to know actually,
Yep.
how did you succeed to overcome this issue? Because it has nothing to do with learning at all.
Nope. And well, the last part is this feeling of guilt. So these adults, they spend all their life afraid to learn English. Now that they are adults, they can't speak English and they feel guilty. And this all stems from the humiliation they felt, the abuse they experienced. So we know it's completely normal to experience that anxiety, because we need to become conversational. So how can we overcome FLA? And this is the question Dr. Yasser just asked. It's easy, very, very easy. I show this picture every time. Okay, if we're unsure, hey, Google Translate works very well. Google Translate works very well. But it doesn't matter. When we try to speak, our tongue is always tied in knots. Our brain is tied in knots. I mean, everything is just tied up. And sometimes we can't get the words out. So I asked hundreds of people, what issues do you really have? And it was so simple. They said pronunciation, vocabulary. And sometimes we have difficulty understanding other people who might have, a little stronger accents. I said, what about grammar? We think about sentence structure a little bit, but not really much. And the literature says pronunciation and vocabulary are the two main issues that most people need to overcome. So I suggest, look, instead of being anxious, just prepare yourself. When you know you need to speak with someone, practice. That's it, practice. When I need to have a conversation in Thai, a few minutes before I meet that person, I'm going over in my mind what I want to say. And I even sometimes speak out loud, or I practice with someone. Sure, yeah. Prepare yourself. Prepare yourself and you will reduce your anxiety. Look, prepare these phrases in your head. Try to work out these scenarios. Try. And next, put yourself in the other person's shoes. So if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, you will know, you will understand that, look, if Surya and we speak often. Surya is a very good English speaker, but Surya is not a native English speaker. Surya makes mistakes all the time. But I never tell Surya, oh, that's a mistake. Why? Why? Because Surya talks and talks about all kind of things. And I put myself in Surya's shoes. How do you think she would feel if I corrected her every time she made a mistake? She would not want to speak with me. And I would create so much anxiety in her to where she would not want to speak with anyone. So empathy. And you know, look, the second to last point, native English speakers do not expect someone who is learning English to speak perfectly. Of course not. Come on. Look, to be honest with you, if you speak English perfectly, then you speak English better than me. Because even as a native English speaker, I make mistakes. It's no big deal. I make mistakes. That's normal.
You said I make mistakes, and this is actually a mistake. You see?
Yes, I know. See?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, it's no big deal. You know, it's no big deal. So, practice with someone you trust. I practice with my wife all the time when I want to say something in Thai, and she helps me. Practice with someone you trust. If you need to have an English conversation, practice with someone. It's easy. If you practice, if you prepare, the anxiety will be much, much less. And look, the thing is, if you make a mistake, sometimes you recognize it, sometimes you don't. And it's no big deal, because the truth is, no one cares. Nobody cares. Now, I do this all the time. I make a little cheat sheet. I make a cheat sheet. If I want to say something in Thai, I write it karaoke style, you know, phonetically in English. I make a cheat sheet. Don't worry about it. Just don't stress. Just put together a cheat sheet, something about sentences, phrases, whatever you need to say. Again, no one cares. People are very understanding. Memorize a few standard phrases. You know, many years ago, when I first learned to speak Thai, this is what I did. I memorized a few standard phrases. And I use those phrases, and it helps me overcome anxiety. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you repeat that, please? Can you speak more slowly, please? It's okay. Look, everyone understands. So whatever anxiety you have, just practice, prepare, write some phrases. Practice makes perfect. Again and again and again. Keep practicing, okay? And you will be better. You will be better. So let me tell you this right here. We're almost out of time. Change is the end result of all true learning. The more you learn, the more you do, the more you practice, your proficiency will change and you will become a better speaker. And your anxiety will be less and less and less. So there's the baby, there's the questions, and there's my WhatsApp thing. You can scan the QR code. I do not have Facebook because Facebook takes up too much time and I have too much work to do with my PhD. So I deactivated my Facebook account. So if you want to chat, you can contact me on WhatsApp. So, okay, next.
Thank you so much, dear Mr. David. We actually enjoyed this informative presentation and the strategies that those who have an anxiety can use in order to avoid an anxiety. Thank you.
So you're asking. Oh, well, good. I'm not going to say anything now that we're being recorded. You know, yeah. So, but you know, we have chapters from Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, Laos, and the education systems where the teacher is superior and the students are inferior, you're only going to see demotivation, you're going to see humiliation, you're going to see these things. And if you look at the education first ratings, you know, the education first English proficiency ratings, just see which countries are at the bottom, and you will see which education systems are more demotivating. So,
yeah, sounds fair enough. But actually, apart from the, country policy concerning, policy that is related to education, I think teachers can be, encouraged or learn how to, motivate their students and avoid humiliation, right? This is my own point of view. Maybe,
yeah.
You can take the lead and arrange for workshops to enlighten teachers in Thailand. Because as someone who has such experience, I think you can manage it and promote the idea of respecting students and and motivate them, not to demotivate them via insulting or such bad methods that you have mentioned in your presentation. So you can go for it. Why not?
Well,
ฟังไหม
and
see.
we can help you actually. We can help you in conducting these workshops. Yeah. Apart,
Right.
I'm not talking about the government policy.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
I'm talking about, how to, put teachers and students in on the right track. This is what I have in mind.
Well,
It will be just a kind of, not say not instructions, but guidelines. You as teacher, it's like, a rule description. Okay, so teachers have to do 1, 2, 3, 4 in classes.
right.
Students have to follow 1, 2, 3, 4 in classes. And by doing this, I think the learning or teaching learning situation in Thailand will be certainly improved one day. This is what I have in mind. But just to investigate the phenomena and leave it like this without offering, some guidelines or solutions to the problem. This is not good. We have to participate as educators. We actually have to, to help those students. This is what I have in mind. We don't have to, say, okay, this is the phenomena.
Right.
Sorry, we cannot do anything towards it. We have actually to give them a hand as we, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I have your answer in writing, but I know Dr. Sijit, he had his hand up. Sorry, and then he put his hand up three times.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr.
Go ahead.
Jason. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Perrodin, anxiety in relation to speaking in foreign language, I think is affected by many factors. One of them can be the extent of exposure. When we talk about the extent of exposure to the language they are learning, whether the second or foreign language, it is related to generation. It is different across generations. My first son, for example, is quite different from my generation, which is much less exposed to English. My sons are more exposed to English language through social media.
Mhm.
Therefore, their anxiety are much less than what we experience to an extent. Second, it can be related to the social class. Because when we talk about social class, we talk about whether the generation can afford nowadays IT, information and technology. I would like you to comment on this based on your experience, based on the data you collected, Dr. Perrodin. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, so very quickly,
Yeah.
we looked at different social structures. The participants in our first study, just like the participants in our second study has nearly 2,000 participants, by the way. Yeah. So we looked at different social classes, different education backgrounds, different provinces, different areas, different exposures to English, people from international programs, English programs. We looked at as many different demographic scenarios as we could. We wanted to have we wanted to increase the validity of the study and the generalizability of the study. So we looked at all of these different areas. And yes, the young people are exposed to English more than the, Generation Z is exposed more than Generation X or Y, of course, yeah. But still, we looked at the source. And the source, even with the secondary students that we spoke to, the source of anxiety is still the same. It's still the same from, the 1980s until now. It's still the same. So the education setting hasn't changed. So, all right. Okay, I hope I answered your question. Dr. Marissa. Yes, Marissa.
Yeah,
Hello.
good
Thank
evening,
you.
everyone. Good evening.
Yes.
And thank you very much, David, for a wonderful presentation. And I really learned a lot. Yeah, especially when you summarized the reason why students have this kind of anxiety.
Salamat.
And then you really, salamat po. And especially the negative, about the negative criticism. I agree with that because I still, just like Yasser, when he mentioned that it reminded me of his past. It's same to me because, but it's not in English, but it's in math now. So
Yes,
when I was,
same thing.
especially math. Yeah. And so it reminded me of those experiences anyway. So, and then also the, Sigit Sensei or Dr. Sigit also, it reminded me of the social class because this is also very important. And then another thing is that, when you mentioned about the negative criticism, and then you studied about the reason why, so the reason why they have this kind of criticism, and then you mentioned about the bullying. Yeah, so bullying. So one of the stresses and the anxiety, the source of anxiety of the students is the teacher itself. Now, so how they treat the students is a very, very special factor to consider. Yeah, because, and another, I just want only to add, because in Japan it's different environment,
Sure.
I guess. This, of course, bullying probably is hidden behind. It's kind of hidden, but the most important thing in Japan is a part of negative criticism is the examination. Now, so exam. So that is one of the factor that the Japanese students are considering to be one of the factor to be very, very impactful in learning English. Yeah. So for me, because I saw it in Japan, that we teachers have this special role to motivate the students, as you mentioned, Dr. Yasser, a while ago. So that's why I try this the empathy. Now, so we have to create
Right.
a very special environment for the students. Yeah, this kind of family environment. I mean, it is our role as a teacher to give this family-like environment with the students in order for them to feel that they, the classroom itself is an extension of their family, so that they will be able to lessen their stress. Yeah. So I think this one is, the only thing I can share, because you mentioned, Dr. Yasir, that David can give this kind of ways in order to lessen the stress of the students. Maybe that is also one to be considered if ever there would be a workshop. Yeah, for the teachers to for the teachers to change a bit their style of teaching the students. And one is, I think, to create a very good environment, an effective environment for the students. Thank you. That's all. Oh, sorry. I just want only to add, David. I'm
Yes.
very interested. I'm interested about your cheat sheet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I really want to see. I really want to see that cheat sheet. I might use that one. Yeah, because do you have this kind of thing? I mean, yeah, a file of that in order for us to know what is this all about?
No, actually, actually, before the coronavirus pandemic, I would travel all around Mindanao, Visayas, and Luzon. I've touched most of the 7,107 islands. And, I've been exposed to most of the 162 languages spoken, and that's not including the ethnic diversities. But when I travel around the Philippines, when I speak very literal. I don't speak figuratively because I'm not a native Filipino speaker. So one time, I learned how to say beautiful, delicious, and juicy. It's talking about food, like beautiful morning, maganda umaga, beautiful evening, maganda gabi, makatas, masarap. And, so I wanted to taste some fruit. And, fruit is juicy, makatas, right? No, masarap, sorry. And tikman is taste. So I asked someone if I can taste the juicy fruit, but asking someone if you can taste their juicy fruit, it's actually sort of a euphemism. And, I didn't know that. So, when I try to speak another language, if I make a mistake, most of the time, the native speaker of that language, they're very gentle. They're like, oh, that's funny. But earlier I alluded to a reason why I can't read and write Thai very well. You ask about a cheat sheet. Yes, I have to make a cheat sheet because I never formally learned how to read or write Thai. I took Thai classes several times, and every time I made a mistake, the teacher would become indignant or furious. So I would just leave the class, I'm an adult. Don't speak to me like I'm like that, So I didn't take Thai. I haven't taken Thai classes because I haven't found a comfortable environment. So, but the cheat sheet, I just write phrases that I need, or, if I have to make a speech in Thai, I will write it. I will write the speech I will write it phonetically using English letters. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, because if we can pattern your cheat sheets, probably we can also share it with our students here, and then we have this kind of pattern how to use the cheat sheet.
No,
it's great.
No, there's no pattern. It's just as necessary. Yeah.
Okay, so we can probably just use the term cheat sheet.
Cheat sheet. I love it.
Just let the students write anything they want to write.
That's right. Yeah. Cheat sheet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
I love the cheat sheet.
Yeah. Well, I see eye to eye with Dr. Marissa, actually.
Okay.
But you know what, Dr. David, I feel that learning a foreign language, I mean, whether it is English or Thai or any language in Thailand, is a big problem. This is what I have in mind now. Yani, it's I mean, it's awful to know that in such countries, people are not encouraged to learn a foreign language. So I think you educators have to find a way in order to overcome this, I mean, I say fatal problem. It's not just a problem, but it is a fatal problem, actually. Yeah.
Well, the British Council came in and they trained, 20,000 teachers just recently, before the coronavirus. They trained them on how to different tactics to teach English, and I'm not sure exactly how successful it was because there hasn't been a full study of the program. But you mentioned about implementing different teaching techniques to be more encouraging, more motivating, but that kind of goes against the grain. You know, there's WHO did a study in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003, and they found that in countries that have transmission type education systems like China or Thailand, that anything from the outside, any outsider type teaching techniques or pedagogies like communicative language teaching or CLIL, they're not accepted in that teaching system. And they said that that although these methodologies are effective, they're only as effective to the extent that the teachers and students are willing to accept and implement these methodologies or pedagogies in good faith. And that these pedagogies are often not accepted because they go against the cultural standards. So when you have a transmission type system to where, you know, the teaching is very one-sided, the students are afraid to ask questions, you know, they're afraid of retaliation. It's difficult for outsiders to come in and change that system. And, you know, I mean, since the 1950s, since the 1980s, for sure, there have been many systems that were implemented, but they just don't work very well, you know, because they're kind of against the cultural structure. So I understand, you know, I'm not trying to play the devil's advocate here, but one of the papers that I am writing right now, I'm actually writing a paper right now that says after 30 years of exploration, nothing has changed. So the title of my paper is After 30 Years, It Is Time to Stop. Yeah, that's the title. So, you know, it's going to take a top-down approach. It's going to take someone, you know, at the very top to decide, hey, we need to develop the people. And everyone knows that, you know. The grassroots starting at the teacher level, yeah, there's not really enough people implementing these type of strategies. It has to start at the top. So, sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. David. We really enjoyed this wonderful, informative presentation.
We have a hand.
So which actually, yeah, you gave us a complete picture about what is happening in Thailand nowadays and for the next 30 days, as you have mentioned so far. So thank you so much. And if anyone has a question, feel free to ask. Mr. David is here to answer all our questions, kindly, of course.
Oh,
So,
may
We have a
I?
hand raised. Yeah.
yes, sure. Go ahead.
David, thank you very much for the useful knowledge. Okay, I am in the education system. The big problems, I agree with you, with everybody, is the big problem for us is the teacher. You know, I hate most English language for more than 30 years. I myself, I hate most. But one day, I see that it is very important. It's very useful for us if we know more than 2 languages. Okay, so from now, since then, I study hard in English, but it's still, you know, still right now, I feel like the government inject a lot of budget to improve English. Okay, I am the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Science at Perrodin University. We have a lot of budget, a lot of money to improve English for our students, but it's still not achieve the goal. So if, okay, I think, David, you are stay in Thailand more than 10 years, right? If you are the government or you are the prime minister,
Oh my goodness.
please, you know, please advise or please, what is your policy? Because we spend a lot of money in Thailand for develop to improve English for our students. But it's still, I can tell you that it's still not achieved the goal. You know, when I teach English for lawyer, my student, you know, someone, if I ask them a lot, you know, what does it mean? What does it mean? I can tell me, okay, say hi. They will run away, won't in, you know, they do not attend the class because they are afraid of answering my question. I think it's still in the, you know, in the society, in the you know, in the environment of our education. So, David, please, how can Thai government to overcome
It's
this
easy.
big problem?
Easy. One word or two words.
Okay.
Eliminate sakdina. Eliminate sakdina.
Elite, right? Elite. Okay.
Yes, because Thailand still functions in this feudal type elitist system. You know, the people at the top are untouchable and you have to be grengjai, you have to be considerate to not impeach upon their feelings. You have to practice bunkun, forever fealty. If someone does something for you, you owe them for the rest of your life. So you are always indebted to them. So you have to eliminate some of these old cultural things to bring Thailand into more of a modern society, to where the 67 million people can be developed without fear of persecution. And you know, if a school practices critical thinking and analytical thinking and freedom of expression, the government has to support that instead of investigating them. You know, so I was called to speak to the owner of a very large private school, and they have 70 foreign teachers. 70. About 60% of the teachers are Filipinos, right? So they have 70 foreign teachers, and they were having a very bad problem with morale. So they called me in to give advice. And I said, very, very simply, the director needs to walk around the school every day and say hello. That's it. The director just needs to walk around the school every day and say hello. Pop his head into one of the classrooms and say, hey, would you mind if I hang around for a couple of minutes? I'm just interested in what you're doing. I'm not here to assess. I'm just here to observe. I just want to know, you know, I just want to understand, just sort of make these relationships. Wow, that did not go over very well. Being friendly with your teachers, encouraging your teachers, having a relationship, a professional, courteous relationship. Yeah, that didn't go over well at all. That backfired. They told me they would never do that. So no, they never implemented what I said. They told me that it would never work because they have to keep that superiority. They have to keep the puyai, punoi separation, the upper class, lower class. So, Dr. Yasser, you mentioned about implementing, tactics that will bring a positive environment in the classroom. It's kind of hard when there's that, I'm not, or that itipon, that sense of superiority, that mafia style leadership in the classroom. Yeah, and so, if you want to make changes, you're going to have to start opening yourself and, and making the students feel comfortable and letting the students know that you make mistakes as well. So, and that's making yourself vulnerable as a teacher, and trusting that the parents have trained the students, that the parents have trained the students to, not attack a teacher if they make themselves vulnerable. So, but that's when we interviewed the teachers said that they don't want to make themselves vulnerable. They don't want to let the students speak freely because they believe the students will be rude. What is it? That the students will pinglio, turning the threads of a screw. They actually said that. The teacher said that they don't want the students to speak freely because the students can only be rude. So I asked, I said, do you really think in the whole society that the parents never train the children to speak socially appropriate? I mean, just because someone has questions doesn't mean they have to be rude, or impolite, yapkai, my supab, or, or be, or not have respect, my kauro, So, I mean, these fears they're just unsubstantiated. So, yeah. Okay, we have 6 minutes left. Yes. Questions?
Yes, I want to speak English well. How can I learn? I don't speak English well. Please tell me.
Okay. Oh, very good. Very good. Yeah. I tell everyone, Netflix, YouTube videos, natural speaking, watch movies, watch series, listen to English, listen every day, all day, read English books, join seminars, conferences, Facebook groups. Facebook groups are beautiful. They have people who will practice English with you. They have people who will speak with you for free, So social media is a beautiful thing. Or get a foreign partner. That's what my wife did. My wife married an American. My wife is Thai and she married an American, me. So she speaks English very well. So maybe you need a Western partner. So there you go.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
So, Dr. Yusora, you can find an American partner in order to improve language.
We have a question. Sorry, question.
Ajahn
Yes, go ahead. No.
Have questions? Ajahn Warakin, have questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Please recommend my method. I teach my students to begin with reading, to start with an easy article, so that I believe that they can further their English begin with easy reading, and they can further the skills to writing, speaking, and so on.
Mhm.
But I think Netflix or listening to radio, it's too much difficult. Is my method is something wrong, or can you recommend it? Thank you.
Okay. Fang put on Kian. Listen, speak, read, write in that way. Let them watch Netflix, let them watch YouTube, let them use anything that they can. Let them use anything that they can. Reading simple articles is fine, but where Thai students are deficient is in listening and speaking. They can read and write, but they have difficulty listening and speaking. And
anyway,
yeah,
they don't have sufficient words, and they don't know the English structure well.
Yeah, that's listening. Listening helps that. Listening to natural language. Listening. So let them listen first. Get them comfortable with English. Okay, 2 minutes left. We have to stop.
Yes. Any more questions? Okay. Now, thank you again, dear Mr. David, for such informative, illuminating presentation, actually. And thanks for you all. We are happy to meet, and hopefully we will see you in the coming webinars. Thank you so much, and we are waiting for a new webinar soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I need to go to Pechabun, and I need to go to Surin. I need to go to Surin Technical College.
Very soon.
My goodness.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.